part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Appreciate everybody for jumping on with me. DeShaun Tate here, unless you've been living under a rock. As you know this already, you are listening to and, of course, watching the Locked On HAWKS POSTCAST. Big time win from the Atlanta Hawks on tonight. 105-102 in a ridiculously wild finish for the Atlanta Hawks on the road in the first of four on in their new time zone, at least for now. 3 different time zones I think they're going to play in. West Coast road trip over the Los Angeles Clippers. Of course, welcome everybody to the #1 sports podcasting network. Again, DeShaun Tate here with you guys, and appreciate you guys for staying up late on the late night tip with me this evening, or I guess technically morning now, depending on where you're located. I know we got a lot of Hawks fans that are really excited about tonight's win and excited no matter where you may reside. Of course, I want to let you guys know that tonight's episode of the Locked On HAWKS POSTCAST is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. If you haven't done so already, shame on you. Moving forward, obviously, let's go ahead and jump right into it for the first segment of the evening. Wow. Not going to say I was necessarily anticipating this. It was crazy, just between two teams that appear to somewhat be totally different. One of them is like the eldest team in the NBA of like an average of like 30 years old or something around that range. And then the other being the third youngest team, now talking about the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA. And without some players, of course, Chris Paul not playing on tonight. Kawhi Leonard, shocker, I guess, right? Nickeil Alexander-Walker still out. Trae Young still out. So still kind of dealing with some of the point guard issues. And I really just kind of believe that you really have to tip your cap to the Atlanta Hawks, if for nothing else, for that exact reason. I mean, I really feel like if you couldn't do anything else, you have to find solace, win, lose, or draw, in the fact that the Atlanta Hawks were able to kind of keep this game tight. We're able to keep it competitive. I get it. Maybe Bradley Beal wasn't out there tonight, or Kawhi Leonard wasn't out there tonight, or whatever, but still a Clippers team that has more than enough pieces on its roster full of talent. We're not saying that the Hawks are untalented, but certainly missing some key contributing guys. Also getting some back. Of course, Jalen Johnson played tonight, which I think was more than necessary. Kristaps Porzingis as well contributed, 20 points. And then certainly bringing back Luke Kennard, who's a big-time piece. I think in some cases an X factor without 2 point guards. I thought I would see a little bit more of him playing some point guard. I know he's great off the ball and maybe not a prototypical, type of point guard, if you will, but thought that I would see him handling it a little bit more with both of those guys being out, and that hasn't been the case at all. And they've still been finding a way to win basketball games. So I think that that's good. I mean, you start looking at the positive side and the optimism side of this. Now, I'm not saying that the Atlanta Hawks are world beaters and going to go out there and compete for a champion. No. But because of the fact that they're competing, and I know some people are like, oh, give the Atlanta Hawks flowers because they're competing. But no, I mean, you got to do that. Point guard is the quarterback in football. That is probably the most critical position, in the game of basketball. So you got to tip your cap when you're not only missing your star player, who happens to be your starting point guard, you're also missing your backup point guard, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was kind of pushed in there what did he play? Not even like probably a handful of games in a Hawks uniform before he's out and playing in a position that he's not even overly familiar with like that, let alone in a market on a team for a franchise he's not familiar with. He goes out, you got to put somebody else in there. So I think this is where you do have to credit, if not nothing else, for, the mistakes, the minor miscues that we haven't seen from Keaton Wallace, to be honest. And I think that he, deserves just as much credit as anybody else on this team, because he's kind of been somewhat the straw that stirs the drink. Anyway, moving forward. a couple takeaways from this game, some things that I really think that this team needed to do in order to come away with a win. Clearly was able to do so. They needed to utilize some of the youthful young legs, if you will, get downhill in transition and kind of make the defense work and move and just really make the slow legs of the elder legs of the Los Angeles Clippers move their legs a little bit. And I think they kind of wore them down just a little bit. Sure, it was a tale of, runs, if you will, but that's just basketball in general. Needed to get downhill in transition and spray often. I think that they did that. Outscored the Los Angeles Clippers 20-4 in transition. And then even furthermore, need to make sure that they continue to dominate, especially in the front court with those paint points. They were able to do that, maybe not in dominating fashion, especially because Zubac being such a load in the front court, but even more so the fact that they outscored the Clippers 44-42. I will say this. And I think that these were a couple different points. And one of the biggest points of emphasis on tonight was going to be staying home. Say stay home, obviously. Stay on your man. You cannot give James Harden, as the prolific scorer and one of the best scorers that we've ever seen in NBA history, very much space to be able to operate on the offensive end. I think that they did a good job containing him, specifically Dyson Daniels. I mean, is there a more difficult matchup in back-to-back games between having to defend a 40-point averaging Luka Doncic and holding him to, 22 points in one night, and then turn around and have to guard James Harden on the road on the other night? And I think that Dyson Daniels obviously did a pretty good job at that. Luka Doncic, who's one of the best players in the league at getting to the charity stripe, I call it the free space on the bingo card, only went to the line 6 times when they played the Atlanta Hawks the other night, and which obviously resulted in a Hawks win. And then, of course, the same thing for James Harden tonight, who you should know, if you've been watching basketball for not very long, then you would know that is an area on the floor where James Harden tends to dominate from, similar to Luka. Also went to the free throw line just 6 times on tonight. So, I mean, you're looking at it, you got 2 of the most prolific scorers and guys that can really maneuver their way with their play style to be able to draw contact and go to get freebies, only go a collection of 12 times. I think that's kind of unheard of. And shout out to Dyson Daniels too for the 3 steals that he had on tonight. I think that was something that was really, really huge. I thought that Jalen Johnson really had to, outplay. And I know that this may not seem like it was one that's like, oh, that's not a very big stretch. I mean, like shocker. But I think Jalen Johnson really needs to go out there and play better than John Collins on tonight. And these 2 guys so similar to me in some ways, based on their time in Atlanta Hawk uniform. I think that, both guys within their own right certainly improved in Atlanta Hawk uniform from year to year. Some of that benefited off of trade, some of it obviously not. Give them the credit for just improving each year on their own. But even more so, just developing a jump shot outside and for, John Collins when he was in the Hawks uniform. It just kind of seems like their style of, or just the way that they improved, the upward trajectory, if you will, for both players kind of went up right around the same times of their careers. And both at one point in time in Hawks uniforms looked like fringe all-star, caliber type of player, even though neither got in. So I thought it was just a matter of just needing to outplay him, and I figured that that's something that would have been done. How about 16 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 44% from the field for Jalen Johnson? Of course, just 9.7 rebounds on 27% from the field for John Collins, and 1 for 6 from 3. So obviously got the better of him from that standpoint. And good win for the Atlanta Hawks, especially. We're going to talk about the bench, and 11 consecutive found its mark, and obviously Vit Krejci being the difference, and give a little bit of shout out to somebody that we lost, obviously unfortunate set of circumstances to a forever Atlanta Hawk great right here on the back end of the break. One moment. Your ambition has just officially met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day. Every day, in fact, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Basketball season is officially here. Shocker. Nobody more excited than this guy, DeShaun Tate. And nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's just be real here just for a second. Getting tickets can be a total headache, a true hassle for real. If you've ever tried doing this, I don't even trust going the scalper route. This is the best option that I can even possibly think of. Used it so many times. It's done me and my friends, family so well, between waiting and queues and surprise fees and prices that jump out right before you check out. None of that can be more annoying. And I think it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your favorite team, for crying out loud. Of course, that being the Atlanta Hawks. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I remember I recently had used, Game Time to grab some seats for an Atlanta Hawks game recently for some family of mine. It couldn't have been more simple. Had great seats in just minutes, a snap of a finger, seconds, really, if I'm just being really transparent. And then their zone deals are a real game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save a whole lot of money. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. Should I say it again? Under $25. You heard it correct. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, of course. That's code LOCKEDONNBA, Locked On NBA, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. This episode of the Locked On Hawks postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on all the action. That's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, you want to kind of get in on some live action, if you will. FanDuel has the best live bets on everything from who will score next to potentially even some of the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that strong push down the wire. Who doesn't love that? All the adrenaline, all of the energy, all of the good anxiety, if there's a such thing, all plays a part in this. And certainly, I think it's always a lot of fun when you could try and go out there, get your phone bill paid, get your rent paid, some extra Christmas presents. You don't want to be that mom or dad without being able to have anything wrapped underneath the tree. That is where you can get something contributed to that, and that being FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers, if you never tried it out, go ahead and try it out. $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. The Atlanta Hawks unfortunately lost a someone that I think that we can all consider to be a staple, a landmark of this city. A pillar of the Atlanta Hawks community, of the franchise, if you will. Lenny Wilkens passing away on today, I believe 88 years of age, on yesterday, excuse me. And it kind of felt like with some of the energy that the team had in the building on tonight, I think that they all kind of felt that in some ways. So we'd like to take this time here just for a second to, tribute and pay homage and remembrance of one of the all-time greats, not just players of the NBA, but also coaches in the NBA, that being Lenny Wilkens, in which he's marking as third all-time in wins with 1,332 and 310 wins in 7 seasons as the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. And also remembering him, especially a lot of people, for the fact that the time that he surpassed Red Auerbach for the most wins in NBA history. So definitely, or in NBA history. So just want to, give him, give him and his family and everyone involved in the, that knew him, the Hawks, franchise, the organization, a big part of this, of the NBA, of this league, genuine and sincere condolences to everybody that has been impacted and affected. And as of now, we'll move forward into our Turning Point segment.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the Turning Point.
It got a little bit tough for the Atlanta Hawks, just a little bit, who appeared to have clearly ended the quarter with only scoring 19 points, 1 for 8 from 3. Seems like there was a lid on this thing, and that's kind of what feel like, it's almost like a Toronto Raptors game all over again, some way, somehow. The Clippers start out the game on a 12-2 run, but nonetheless, it became really tough because that was followed up by the Los Angeles Clippers going on a 10-0 run over the span of 5 minutes. No field goals converted for the Atlanta Hawks, and it was really about to get out of hand as the Hawks went down by 17 points. But lo and behold, here comes this guy. I call him number 99. A buddy of mine, Caleb Johnson. Make sure you go check him out at the Locked On Georgia Tech channel that we have now, him and my boy Jarvis Davis, who does a fantastic job. But me and Caleb have a lot of fun joking around, calling Vit Krejci when he first came in to the league, and obviously in a Hawks uniform, I was somewhat kind of facetiously calling him number 99 because it's just like, who is this dude anyways? And who this dude is showed me up rather, being someone who led the team tonight, led the team on tonight, 28 points for him. Of course, only 3 rebounds and 2 assists, which is perfectly fine the way that he was shooting it. He was lights out tonight. Dude was on fire. Give him the credit. I mean, he couldn't, I always say, trying to throw a rock. He's throwing a rock from the boat. Just really couldn't miss, to be really honest. And he had the flamethrower on tonight, and he just had the energy. And I always say, when Vit Krejci is hot, he's hot. And there's some moments that he's just not. He's clearly not. But when he's hot, he's really he's a really difficult cover, and he just has this extra boost of just energy, and it's really hard to stop somebody like that. So they really needed him, especially at a point where the Atlanta Hawks had got out to led to a 9-0 run for Atlanta in the second quarter, which seemed to clearly have turned everything around. And all that happened really in a span of 1 minute. You follow that up with a 23-5 run by the Atlanta Hawks in the second quarter, and including 11 consecutive conversions where they did not miss a shot. I think ultimately that is what helped assist the Atlanta Hawks to not only kind of getting back in this game, but I think probably the most impressive part to all of this was like not just staying in the game, but felt like it's their game to lose. And they had to answer every single time that the Los Angeles Clippers, was trying to make a run to try and get back into the game. So, give them credit for going down 17, coming all the way back, going up by about 8 or 10. And even though it felt like that lead was going to slip away, there aren't very many times where I feel really, really confident to be able to say the Atlanta Hawks put the exclamation on this and said, you know what, we're not going to roll over and die. We're not going to give up our lead. We're going to keep our foot on the gas pedal and we're not going to, give up. And that they didn't. I think that's where you got to give them some credit, because there's been far too many games in the past, and even so far this season, that we've seen where they had a comfortable lead and then the other team came back. I just mentioned the Toronto game the other night, and they ended up giving it away. A lot of times that happens at home. I don't know why they're playing so much better on the road than they are at home, for whatever reason that is. But nonetheless, it's something that is happening. So definitely got to give them some credit, because during that stretch, the Los Angeles Clippers shot 2 for 10 from the field and had 2 turnovers as well. So, when you start talking about back-to-back traveling violations, turnovers between Dyson Daniels and Onyeka Okongwu, followed by a shot clock violation in the fourth quarter, gave the Los Angeles Clippers a little bit of hope, but the Atlanta Hawks was able to yet still prevail. And it was a wild ending. I don't know what the Clippers was doing there at the end, but give credit to the Atlanta Hawks for standing in the gap and refuse to lose was clearly the motto. Appreciate everybody, man, for coming through, showing some love, checking me out on tonight. I know everybody's looking forward to getting ready for Tanisha to come back and join me. She'll be back for me on the next game, but even more so for Brad Rowland, who's going to be coming up next. Show my boy some love. This dude knows what he's talking about. Very intelligent, very smart. Been doing this for a long time. Locked on Hawks. POSTCAST closing out with DeShaun Tate. Get ready. Coming up next, Locked on Hawks podcast with Brad Rowland. Appreciate everybody for showing some love and coming up tonight. Peace up, A-Town down. Go Hawks.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.